If you ask someone to name the contenders for the Champions Cup, the chances are the second or third club out of their mouths would be La Rochelle. A small town on the west coast of France with less than 80,000 inhabitants, La Rochelle, or Stade Rochelais as they are properly known, have cemented themselves at the forefront of European club rugby. But what people might not appreciate is how recently and how quickly they achieved this. La Rochelle played their first rugby match in 1902, but they spent the first 20 years of the professional era bouncing between the first and second divisions of French rugby. They only solidified their place in the top 14 in 2016 and played in the Champions Cup for the first time ever in 2017, where they were knocked out in the quarterfinals by the Scarlets, the greatest club team the game has ever seen. But since then they have made 3 Champions Cup finals, winning back-to-back titles in 2022 and 2023, both times defeating Irish juggernauts Leinster. Their second title was especially memorable, lifting the trophy in Leinster's own backyard despite having been well down at half-time. So how have La Rochelle achieved so much in so little time? They're just good. They're extremely well coached, they've got a great academy and they recruit incredibly smartly. Whereas Racing repeatedly try and sign marquee internationals who will be unavailable for half the season, La Rochelle line their squads with reliable, high-quality foreign players who play a limited number of tests, such as Fiji's Botia and Samoa's Sueteni. Players also tend to stay at La Rochelle for a long time and speak glowingly about how they feel special at the club and truly buy into its culture. You might also be surprised at how few players La Rochelle contributes to the French national side, considering their European successes. Today, France are mostly made up of Toulouse and Bordeaux players. La Rochelle contributes just a handful of forwards, whilst Jonathan Danty is the only back to have really had a prolonged spell in the team. Now I'm sure you will think I've forgotten something. The money. La Rochelle's own website says that their budget in the Pro D2 was 15 million euros a season, and now you can find it reported as being as high as 40 million euros per season. But there is something unusual about where La Rochelle gets its money. Unlike most other clubs who are either union-owned or are the pet project of a wealthy benefactor, La Rochelle are fan-owned. La Rochelle's fan base is one of the most famous and dedicated in club rugby. This season, their 16,800-seater stadium is set to reach 100 home games in a row, fully sold out. 6 years worth of fixtures. Their waiting list for a season ticket is said to be 7,000 people long. Their fans became iconic thanks to rapturous harbour scenes that greet the team when they return home with a trophy. So, are we going to see such scenes again this season? La Rochelle are one of just 2 French clubs to win the European Cup without ever having won the domestic league. They have finished as top 14 runners-up twice, most recently thanks to a stunning last-minute try courtesy of Toulouse's Roman Untermack. Last season was something of a disappointment as they went out of the league in the semi-finals and the Champions Cup in the quarters, losing to Leinster again, having already lost at home to them in the pool stages. They come into this season's Champions Cup off the back of one of the all-time top 14 shock results, losing at home to newcomers Vaughan, a result that had coach Ronan O'Gara ranting in the press. But their European campaign is kicked off with a comfortable win over English table-toppers Bath. Their recruitment for next season is looking good too, having already signed scrum half Nolan Legarec from Racing and fullback David Niniashvili from Lyon. They were even linked with All Blacks fly half Damien McKenzie, suggesting La Rochelle's time as a European club superpower is far from over. Hey, did you know I do a French rugby podcast every single week? You can find a link to it down below, and we cover every single top 14 game as well as all of the news and gossip coming out of French rugby. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and we'll see you next week. Bye.